Samir, if I were to want yourself on the way of the edge technologies, endpoint solutions, security, you may add a little bit of your thoughts on that, please.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So, I can agree with my other colleagues who just spoken before me, and I think everyone and his neighbor is moving to the cloud, right? So, I mean, right from the way we store our own pictures, right, to iCloud or to enterprise IT, which was earlier seen very negatively like shadow IT and things, but today Box and Dropbox and even enterprise sharing tools have become pretty normal, right? So I think, the fundamentals of the business remain quite the same, as Ali mentioned in his conversation, but the way of doing things is slowly but surely changing in a way where, going back to what Hadi mentioned also, in a hybrid fashion, some of the applications are being enabled, some of the applications are being developed for hybrid use. Devices today are everywhere, right? And in everybody's pockets and everybody's hands. So, the incoming traffic is being, it's being expanded to accept all kinds of requests and things like that. And this is where, we are seeing a lot of investment, a lot of focus, a lot of strategy going into how do you handle a multi-cloud vendor, which should be seamless. There should not be dependency from a lock-in perspective. Security is still a concern because some of the earliest attacks like the DDoS, etc., still exist today, except for the fact that they're not now being targeted to your infrastructure, they're being targeted to your cloud service provider. So you do have to think about that as a strategy when you want to shift your focus on enhancing your infrastructure bit, and while making it more flexible, at the same time making it secure as well. Because the last thing that you want is to end up on some, you want your data to end up on some dark web. Interestingly, I was reading a report the other day, and like 90% of the corporate organizations today have some sort of data, available for sale on the deep dark web, right? So imagine like what kind of data is available out there, right? So another interesting thing, Manoj, which you briefly touched upon, which was automation. And this is what I also wanted to kind of touch base in. The technologies that were earlier being dependent on the human touch today, are being slowly again shifted, as automation. Case in point being incident response today. If there is, like I said, today is not if there's an incident going to happen. Everyone in IT is just braced for, okay, when is the next incident going to happen? And the true strength of a character of an organization's maturity curve is on how fast and how effectively can you respond to that incident. And that is why some of the endpoint security solutions as well, right? Our technology partners bundle this automated incident response, bundle some of the key requirements in a flexible hybrid model. Infrastructure 4.0 that we've been talking about, and how to best enable the workforce to actually deliver what they want to deliver. Because I always tell this to anyone, right? Make the strategy simple. Keep it as simple as possible, right? Fight the battles that are big enough to matter and small enough to win. You just don't go picking about every battle inside, right? So I think the simplicity in approach, in strategy, and automating some of these things, using the machine learning, using some of the tools that are available to us and are above the maturity curve, are actually seeing a lot of benefits to the organizations who have benefited. And some of them who've not yet started using them are not sitting still. They're learning from those, experiences of people who already used it, and they're now beginning to incorporate. We are seeing a huge uptake, in the next gen EDR solutions, in the next gen edge solutions to enable this and to actually have a secure and flexible environment. So that's pretty much, what we are seeing out there today.
Absolutely, Samir, you touched on spot the way industries, because when you look at a simple journey of buying a product online, which everybody does, and you remember that, right? So product comes from somewhere else, right? It's being hosted on some other platform, and you have a cross-border logistics provider, you have a last-mile provider, and you have insurance coming in different legs. So everything as a service, and to have a security on top of it is the new normal, and it's like the product is not going to be very traditional, and it could be quite sticky and interesting. See, how do you kind of switch gears with players and solutions shadowing it, right? It's an interesting time. Perfect.
So, Manoj, that's very interesting. You mentioned that because one key thing that we're seeing is, earlier the approach to this, uptake was mostly build in-house, and that goes back to the earlier point that I was making, that our approach of protecting the castle was always in the front of our mind. But today, people have woken up to picking up managed services from the best of the breed service providers. They're happy to leverage, they're first of all happy to accept that we can't build all the skill sets that we need under the sun to protect ourselves from whatever is out there. So, they're very smart today in recognizing that fact and picking up the best of the breed services to be able to defend against, these kind of breaches as well. So I think today's consumer and, the IT world has really smartened up, and there's a huge uptake in these kind of services.
Absolutely, I can't agree with you more on that, because I've been reading the analyst reports in the last 1 week. Most of them are heading towards that direction for simple reason that this pandemic itself has taught the whole industry to change, because you wouldn't know where the demand is, right, and where the resources are, where the capacity is. So it's going to be a shift and very unprecedented and unseen. That's where the services come into play, where you have a pool and you can play where you want to play, right? So that's why I think the shift is going to happen. Absolutely spot on.